in the chat because we have so little time together. 2 hours is not a lot to go through the core actions and do a little bit of practice. We're going to talk about what SBRN is, what psychological first aid is, and the core actions and self-care actions that go with this. And if anybody wants this PowerPoint, just let us know, put it in the chat, and I'm happy to share it. We're going to talk a little bit about compassion fatigue and talk a little bit about compassion centers. And that's a concept that SBRN developed. So I'd like you to put in the chat your name. If you want to put your agency, that's helpful. I will be communicating with you after the training, and hoping that you will be interested in participating in community engagement that we're doing. So I'll be in touch with you. So Santa Barbara Response Network, we're all volunteers. We're grassroots. We're dedicated to offering psychological first aid, and I'll talk about what that is in a moment, to offer resilient recovery from crisis and trauma. So what we do, and at the core belief system of psychological first aid, is that people can heal. People can recover. We're not doing therapy. We're not fixing people. We're not doing to them. We're taking barriers away and helping them to engage with their own recovery. So that's the basis and belief system of SBRN. We have many partners in the community. We probably have done work with just about every mental health nonprofit, as well as the school district, behavioral wellness, law enforcement, the faith-based community. So what is psychological first aid? There's been a lot of research to help us to understand that if we're able to be with a person when they've been impacted by trauma of any kind, if we can be with them and establish safety and security and help them to connect with restorative and helpful resources, we can actually reduce the amount of PTSD long-term that would impact the individual. We hope in our work with them that we can help establish, like in the grounding exercise, adaptive coping strategies that they can use going forward. So we've been offering psychological first aid now for 12 years in the community, and responded to just about every large incident that's impacted Santa Barbara, and small family incidents as well. And we're very active right now assisting with the COVID responses. So we decided to include self-care with the psychological first aid core actions because, as we said earlier, we need to take care deliberately of our mental, emotional, and physical health. And as it says here, although it's simple in theory and everybody goes, yes, we need to take care of ourselves, it's often overlooked. I mean, greatly overlooked by the people who are helping others. And in order to have that ability to be present for someone else, I think it's very important that we really look at what we're doing to keep ourselves in a state of well-being. So if I, at this point, Yoli, if there's anyone that's put a question in the chat, or if anybody has a question, feel free to open it up. And Yoli, if you have any comments, feel free also to chime in. I just have a quick question. Are people on this training, do you feel like you are practicing self-care right now? Is there anybody that would want to share yes and what they feel like they're doing for themselves? Or not?
I'll go ahead and start. I do. I hike often. I live in Corona near a mountain
Oh,
called
wow.
Skyline. So I hike there often. I'm also an avid reader. So I've read a couple of good books on Greek mythology. Actually, I've read four. I read a
Wow.
couple of, I don't know, well, C.S. Lewis is another one that I read. I was just reading What Makes Your Brain Happy
Mm-hmm.
and Why You Should Do the Opposite, which is this one.
So you're
And
reading. Mm-hmm.
I read, I go out in nature, I
Mm-hmm.
clean my house. I try to keep busy and be active and connect with people. I talk to Irma or Oscar. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I'll send them jokes, in a
Mm-hmm.
text or
I,
communicate with my grandkids via, you know,
I'm glad you said
chat or
humor because
whatever.
that's really important.
Yes.
Very important.
So that's it.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Oscar. I do the humor with Cindy as well as Irma. Sometimes they have to turn me down quite a bit because I'm constantly joking, but it's important to make sure we
Yeah.
get those endorphins out and allow
Yes.
ourselves to laugh because we're in a pandemic. Even though people can't believe I'm only 39 and I've been married 47 years, uh, we have to get that outlet. I do the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. I do a lot of walking, 2.5 miles a day.
Mm-hmm.
I read The Best Self by a coach to
Mm-hmm.
make sure I take care of myself because if I don't
Mm-hmm.
take care of myself, I won't be
Mm-hmm.
able to take care of someone else.
Yeah. Well put. Yeah. Thank you.
This is Irma.
Okay. Yeah, Herma.
Yes, I wanted to share that for me, like, Cynthia and Oscar are a blessing because I am working. And,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I get a little bit overwhelmed because I'm doing so many different things. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it makes a big difference having friends or friends that
Mm-hmm.
you can really count on and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is what I need right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give you a different perspective, which is for me
Yeah.
really a
Yeah.
blessing. Something that's to really, and that's the way I feel.
Mm-hmm.
The way I'm taking care of myself. It's like, you know what, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to overthink it. I'm just going to ask for a second opinion and see what they think.
Mm-hmm.
That counts
Yeah.
self-care as well.
It's important.
Hmm.
Connection with your friends. And even though we're isolated, we can still be connected. And I think that's very, very important. Like we're doing now. This is a community right now. And whenever we do the trainings or compassion centers online, we create community. And creating community is part of what is going to help us heal through this. So we're going to talk a little bit now about trauma. Now, I've pulled up this slide, but there's the symptoms. So I'm sure all of us at some point or another have had some trauma. There's what they call big T and little t trauma. The big T's are we're in the middle of one right now, or a natural disaster, a fire, a sudden death. But then what happens even with the smaller traumas is these are the symptoms that we're seeing. And this is what we're seeing in everybody right now. All of these symptoms, all of it, the irritability, the fear, overwhelmed, numbed, all of these things are flooding our system. We're in a state of trauma and fear and anxiety and the unknown. So we have to keep that constantly in mind with ourselves and the people we work with, that everyone is in a state of heightened, their nervous system is in a very heightened state. And we have to have a compassionate understanding for ourselves and others that this is where we are right now, and we have to be able to have a little kindness and gentleness, particularly with ourselves, because all of us are experiencing this right now. There's marital problems, people are divorcing, there's child abuse, domestic violence on the rise. We all know this. So we have emotional symptoms, but we also have physical symptoms. How many people here, including myself, have trouble sleeping these days? I mean, it's extremely difficult. Waking up, not often stomach problems, fatigue, restlessness, just in your body, you're feeling this sense of either agitation or extreme apathy. So the trauma also lodges itself in the body, and the body is the source of understanding that we have to tune into to be able to take care of ourselves and the people that we care for. And that's why tuning in, like we did with the grounding, find out where you're at, what's happening. And we're dealing with people who are in this very heightened state. So getting them to talk about what it is and how it's manifesting in their body, and getting them to understand that this is all partly related to what we're experiencing on the outside. So now we're going to talk about what psychological first aid is and how it can impact that trauma that we're seeing. So there's just basically 8 core actions to psychological first aid, and we'll cover each one more in depth. But we contact and engage, we make sure the person has safety and comfort, stabilization, gathering information about where they're at, assistance, connection, coping, and linkage. So now I want to talk about, and we'll go into each of these core actions and the self-care component. This is probably the most vital and important action in psychological first aid. And it has to do with establishing that connection with the person. And when we've gone out to a traumatic event or situation, they've invited us in. Santa Barbara Response Network only goes to any incident that we're invited to, and that could be by the family themselves or the school board or law enforcement or clergy, or somebody will invite us and say, we need your volunteers to come and support us. So we're going into a situation where they know we're coming, but they may not exactly know what we do. And this is probably true for most people who are in the field working with individuals. So I think it's really important to feel comfortable with that engagement with the person and making that contact. And we introduce ourselves, who we are. We always ask for permission to talk. Sometimes people aren't ready to talk and they just want to be quiet. So we'll say, is it okay if I speak with you or walk with you or be with you right now? And we ask about their needs. So I'm going to role play this with my wonderful intern who's also taking the training, Sachi. Sachi, will you help me with this so I can show people what we're talking about? And I don't see her in the...
Oh, no, I'm here, Gina.
There you are.
Hi.
That's Sachi. Sachi's our intern, and she's also very involved with administrative support for SBRN. Thank you, Sachi. So I'm going to do and practice this first core action. And then if another 2 people want to do that, I welcome it as well. But I just want you to see how I do it. Everyone has their own way of doing it. So, hi, Sachi, is that your name?
Yes, that's my name.
Sachi. So I'm Gina, and I'm here today with the Santa Barbara Response Network. We've been asked to come and offer support. And the Santa Barbara Response Network, we're volunteers that offer support to people who are struggling. And is it okay with you if I sit with you and talk for a few minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So it's just a gentle hi. So your agency, can I assist you? And when that first core action happens, you're on equal footing. We're not there to fix the person, or anything. Say, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm here. Is there anything I can help you with? How can I assist you? That's basically what you're, and when they ask, well, why are you here? So, well, it's sort of like the Red Cross. We're volunteers trained to help people who are having a hard time. So I just want to open it up for a minute and see if there's anybody that has a question or would like to practice with me, or I just want to open it up and have engagement if anyone wants to do that.
Hi, Gina.
Hi,
hi.
Lisa.
This is Lisa. Hello. So I just think in terms of this, what we're talking about, some of us are having this training for the first time, and we'll be reaching out to businesses and business owners and managers, workers, who we're trying to help them in this way, kind of to see, what do you need for being reopened safely, or how are you, so I just want to say it's really good, and that the trauma or the stress that people have can be any different thing, and now our community is experiencing it across the board. So
Absolutely.
that's why we're doing this, learning with you too. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So Lisa and is partnering and sort of with SBRN and other agencies to go and speak with businesses as reopening ambassadors to help these businesses to make sure they're not just compliant, but if they need anything and how things are going. And if anyone here, by the way, wants to do that, we have lots of, and it's done by phone. You don't have to go in person, and this part of the training is really important, because I think the more we're able to connect, the more we're able to get whatever that person needs to be shared. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
So I'm going to let Yoli talk about the self-care part.
So in self-care, when there's contact and engagement, there's always boundaries, not just yours, but theirs, but yours especially, because you have boundaries as well. And recognizing ahead of time what those boundaries are will help you in what you're doing when you're doing engagement. Because a lot of times when we're engaging with people, we don't realize that we need to be really careful and cognizant of what we're saying, how we're saying it, and what we're doing. And we need to make sure that we keep ourselves in a place where we're safe as well. Because you're not sure where you're going, what you're going into. I mean, it could be a business. It could be, most people think of traumatic incidences as something that's like a large disaster or a large car accident or anything like that. But, I like to take it down to the simplest things. The wedding of your last child can be a trauma. And, a lot of times we go up and we congratulate and we're so excited. And yeah, maybe that mom is really excited, but it's her last and only son getting married to another woman. And, there's some trauma with that, and we don't recognize it. And so just thinking about, how you're engaging, the ways that you're engaging, but also about your own boundaries as well. What do you feel comfortable with? An example would be, there are some people that are more comfortable dealing with people who are I'm trying to figure out a nice way to say this, but there's some people who are not very comfortable with certain demographics of our community. Know that as a limit, and don't try to push yourself into something that you don't feel comfortable in. I know that for me, working with the homeless, I'm very at ease with that, but other people aren't. And so knowing that ahead of time and making sure that you're aware of that is that self-care when it comes to contact and engagement. And it's just something you have to know yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself on, is this something that I actually can do? And if not, be honest and say, I can't do this, but I can help in another way. So it's just making sure that you understand what those boundaries are. Any questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm sharing the screen, and I was looking to see who was here, and now I don't know how to close that little box. So I'm trying to figure, this is my first time I've shared screen. How do I, does everybody, oh, there. Do you see that participant box in the center? Or is that just me that sees that?
I think it's just you, Gina. We can still see the regular presentation.
Okay, I need to close it and I can't. So I apologize. I'm a novice at this screen sharing. It's my first time. I'm very proud of myself. But so what I have is a box open that I can't close, so I can't read what it says. But
it's the safety and comfort.
yes, I see that. But I'd like to close that.
Gina, if you click on the top left corner of that little box, there should be a little X.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. Now I've lost my screen completely. So hold on. I know this by the
I can go on. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to
find it. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll talk about safety and comfort, and it's both physical and emotional. Now we show people hugging here, but we really encourage you not to do that.
Especially now.
Yes, especially now. But at any time, you always want to make sure that the person that you are kind of ministering to, you know, you're not hovering over them. You're not trying to touch them in any way. I mean, as simple as just touching an arm. You know, sometimes like I'm a mom and I have a tendency to want to touch somebody's arm. It's a sign of, you know, compassion and showing compassion. But there are people that can't do that. They don't want anybody touching them. And so there's a safety of realizing that you have to be able to understand where they're at. And you may not know unless you ask them, you know, how are you doing? Can I offer you something? Can I get you some water? Would you like a blanket? It just depends on the situation that you're in, how you can give them some comfort, whether it's physical or emotional. Now, some people want a handheld, some people don't. You just need to be able to ask them, what is it that will make you comfortable? You know, just kind of see what it is that you can do. Gina?
Yeah. And I think that partly when we're talking about, when Yoli was talking about the boundaries, I think that partly when we're talking about safety and comfort, we're talking about being able to feel comfortable in that space that you're sharing with that person. And besides them being physically comfortable, emotionally comfortable. You can ask someone if it's okay, if you're too close or not too close. We do an exercise when we're in person where we have the two volunteers walking toward each other, and they walk, take one step, another step, and then you raise your hand when you've come as far as you want to go. And I think that speaks really well to the fact that we have physical and emotional boundaries. So I think that's very important for us to recognize. So, okay, now I can't move forward. I'm not the person to share screen, I have to say. So Sachi, can you move, Okay. Oh,
You got it, Gina.
I did, but yes, I still have a big box in the center of my screen. So I'm going to try to. So self-care for number 2. Yoli, do you want me to?
It's fine. You
Sure.
can just
Okay.
smile.
So
Like-
this is pretty basic, but I think that it's very important for ourselves and for the people that we're helping. The idea of smiling, and we talked about this earlier, it can actually change the brain. And there's one, I do a meditation exercise where we actually, if you right now just curl the sides of your lips up into a little half smile, it actually affects the brain chemistry. It's very interesting, but just taking the sides of the mouths up. And the other thing the things that we can do to help, helping others, we're all doing that, but we also have to be careful of our boundaries in that. And to practice optimism.
Yes.
I don't know how many people have a gratitude practice. Anybody? It's just even taking time to say 1 or 2 things that you feel grateful for in your life, and large or small, you know?
And I would say, Gina, too, that these are really important. The self-care is for you.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll find there's so much negativity out there, and you just need to turn around and get in your little, your little corner and say, you know what, I'm just so thankful for having the opportunity to listen to someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding that you can empathize and not sympathize. You can't get involved in it to the point that you're kind of, you're taking on their emotions. So it's really important. And a lot of times, we say smile, not in front of the person, walk away, take some time to just kind of smile. Think about your children, your grandchildren, your friends, a moment in time when you were in Jamaica on the beach, whatever it is, and give yourself that time, because it will zap you when you are caring for another person. It will take a lot of your energy. And so reminding yourself, okay, I just need to stop for a minute, and it's okay to excuse yourself and walk away and smile, or think about something that, will calm you down. Because sometimes if you don't, and you're in a situation long enough, especially when you're with somebody who's very argumentative and you're trying to calm them down and you're using very calm voices and they just don't want to, you just need to stop again and go, you know what, I'm just going to leave you here for a moment. I just need to walk away, and I'll leave you with Gina. Right, Gina, you can stay with this argumentative person.
That's why we go in teams.
And Gina's really good. She'll probably get them to calm down. But now I got to go calm down, because I got to think about myself too, because I have to go home. And what I take with me home could be detrimental to the family that I'm going home to. So this safety and comfort, this self-care is very important for you.
Absolutely. And one thing that Yoli mentioned, which was that we go in teams. When we go out into the community, this is different now with COVID, but we always go in teams, and partly it's exactly what Yoli says. Sometimes you just have to walk away and have someone else come and take over. So, so now we're going to talk about core action.
So Gina's very stable right there.
Overwhelmed, they're distraught.
There she goes.
And that's very important, partly when we're doing the grounding exercises, the breathing, the mindfulness. Have that in your toolbox so that you can be with that person, and you're actually that calming presence. And they'll cue off you. And I'm sure many people on this call right now have experienced this. If there's the example of the boats, the refugee boats from Vietnam, and there were all kinds of people, and whenever there's a story of this, they were all upset, and one person was calm, and it sent out that message to the rest of the people on the boat. And we're kind of in that boat right now. And it's this core action number 3 of stabilization is really important in order to be able to offer the support. So now we'll talk about the self-care.
So for stabilization for yourself,
Yeah.
you have a small group of people. I know Irma and Oscar were talking about Cindy. You know, they have a core group. That's how they emotionally support each other. You need those different types of distractions, whether it's going for a hike or a bike ride or making cookies or whatever it is that you need to do to be able to stabilize yourself. And you know, I really appreciate these core actions because it helps me. I don't have to be in a trauma situation. I can just be in my own situation. And this helps me, you know, hey, if I'm going through a hard time, I know who I'm going to call. You know, I need to know that there's somebody there who can listen to me. I don't need it fixed. I just need someone to listen, right? And that's what we need to do. There's a stabilization of the people that we're working with or the situation that we're in, but we have to understand that we need to be stable as well. Any questions? You know, I was going to ask, does anybody have an example of maybe how this has helped them in the last 3-4 months? Irma?
Yeah, this is Irma. I work for a school, and right now with COVID and stuff like that, I get a lot of phone calls from parents, you know, that are thinking of switching to a different program, and they're a little bit overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. And like with our school, we have so many options. They're like, just give me one. And I said, well, no. And I'm kind of like, I stay calm and I answer the questions. And I'm kind of like that voice for them, you know, and even if sometimes it takes me like 30 minutes to go over a phone call. But at the end, I see that they're, you know, now they have an idea. And like I said, personally on my own things, when I'm a little bit overwhelmed, and it's like I need like a second opinion, I always call either Oscar or Cindy to give me that stability that I need, you know, to make the right decision. You know, so great feedback.
Right. Anyone else have examples of stabilization and ways that they're able to kind of take care of themselves in that way?
So I have one because
Sure,
I work. Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. Is it okay if I share?
Yes, please.
Okay, Rene Garcia Hernandez. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Renee.
Yeah, hello, Gina. Yeah, the way I self-care is I actually, and I don't talk about this often, but this is a good time for me to do so. I just graduated, and there was 2 other men in my cohort for graduate school that I've been in touch with for this whole entire year. So we call each other like maybe bi-monthly now to really just check up on each other and let each other, first and foremost as men, coming from cultures where we don't have the permission to feel and emote, giving ourselves that opportunity between the 3 of us to really feel and really express to each other, you know, our troubles at work, our personal lives, and it really, it's kind of cool to be talking about it because I'm just realizing how impactful that is, you know, having 2 other men who I can really just deconstruct what we were taught throughout the years psychologically, you know, growing up to let ourselves go and be, but still continue the important work we all do in different professional spheres. So yes, but I guess what I wanted to really share is those are folks that are far away from me, but close enough to me that we can stabilize. I've had other groups that are closer, you know, to me, but I found that then things start crossing, you know, and it's hard to then heal. So for me, that's what really worked, is having folks that are far enough, but still emotionally there for me, as I am for them.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Renee. That's really powerful. And especially some of those cultural barriers or these barriers that we've been brought up with about reaching out, especially with men or certain cultures that don't express their feelings or have to push things down. It's so powerful to have those connections in your lives. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. So now we go into the core action of information gathering. So what we're doing at this point in the exchange with the person that we have, we're trying to find out what is really going on for them right now. We're not gathering information about what happened to them and the trauma and the incident. That's going to come out anyway in your talking. But we're going to talk about what is it that you're going through right now. How can I best assist you where you are right now? And at this point, I also ask, what's helped you before? What are things you've done and interventions and things you've done that have helped you to survive in the past? And we're looking for ways that we're going to help that person find the resources and the stability within themselves to get through it. So it's really taking time to get to know them, and finding out how you can match where they're at with additional services. If you have a family and they're worried about where they're going to get their food or where they're going to get tested or their pets, that's where they're at. And that's going to be something you need to identify in order to be able to get them the support that they need. And then we'll be able to see when we talk about what parts of PFA do they need. Are they going to need more grounding or more stabilization? Are they needing therapy, counseling? But do we just need to hand them off? So we're trying to get a sense of where that person's at right now and letting them tell you. Because we don't know. We actually don't know. We think we do, but we may not know. I always tell the story of one of my first responses was to a group mass suicide events that we had in Santa Barbara, and I went to see one of the families, and when I was doing the information gathering, what I found out from the mother, who did not speak English and couldn't read or write English, that she just wanted someone to help to write an obituary for her brother. And that was just so troubling to her, and to help someone to pay for it because she didn't have the money to put it in the paper. So it was interesting that I thought one thing, and when I sat and talked with her, that's really what she needed. At that time, that was so important to her. So I learned a lot in that interaction, that there's these little things that that really weigh on people. So now, self-care around this part.
So know where you can receive services, because you may need them too. Especially when you're dealing with a large incident, or when you're dealing even with a smaller incident, there may be times where you need to have some type of services as well. And we talked earlier about making sure that you have a core group that you can get a hold of. But sometimes the things that you're feeling are so sensitive, you may not want to share them with people that you know.
Mm-hmm.
So have an understanding of where you can go to be able to share maybe some things that are just so deep, because a lot of times there can be familiarizations with things that people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it happen with people before who went to go help someone, and then it popped up something from their past that just devastated them. And they hadn't realized that they had not dealt with something before. And so those kinds of things can happen. Again, it's knowing who you are, knowing your boundaries, and then knowing where you can get the services. So have, and write it down, have a plan. Again, I tell people, Irma, Oscar, you guys know this, if it's not written down, it didn't happen, and you got no proof. So you need to know where you can get information as well and be able to help yourself.
Mhm.
Again, you're going to need it at some point. And a lot of times there's a point in our lives, and everybody goes through this, and sometimes we have something so deep we don't want to share because we don't want to overburden somebody, or maybe it's too personal or too embarrassing, and we hold on to it for so long we don't let go of it, and then all of a sudden something will pop and you'll explode with it. So it's better to get it out as soon as you can to be able to deal with it. And again, that's a gathering facts about yourself.
Mhm. Yes. Does anybody have any comments about that? I think that's really important, what Yoli was talking about. Okay, we'll go on. Okay, this is actually dovetails really well with core action number 4, and that's practical assistance. We're trying to now get very kind of drilling down to what that person and that family needs practically right now, immediate needs. And all of these actions, when we're talking about psychological first aid, they don't go in order. They encompass a sort of a whole experience. The only thing that goes in order is number 1, contact and engagement. That has to happen first. The rest, you may go into core action number 5 right away because they need something practical right away. So you're doing that. What we're covering in psychological first aid is an umbrella of response. And all of those spokes kind of fit. And we may not use all of them in every incident. But it's a kind of frame, it's a point of reference for you when you're with that person, that these are kind of the directions you may take in assisting them in a non-intrusive way. So you might, right away that person says, I really need you to help me pick up my kids from school because I can't go. So, okay. Or I need someone to go to my house and feed my pet or take my pet to the vet. Okay. That might be what's needed right now. And after you've made that engagement, that's where you go. So or that person might need stabilization. They might just be so distressed and so upset that all you can do with them when you're with them is just kind of help them to regulate. So with practice, we learn to tune in to where that person is and how we can sensitively support them.
I want to add here too, don't make promises.
Absolutely.
This is a really hard, number 5 can be really hard for you, especially when you identify a need with someone and they're like, well, can you do that for me? And we sometimes kind of misstep a little bit and we'll say, oh yeah, I promise I'll get that done. And then you find out later you couldn't because it wasn't something that was practical.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making sure that in this core that you're not making promises. You're for the most part, you're telling them you will try, or you'll do the best that you can, and then get back to them. A lot of times we get lost in things and then we forget, oh wait, I was supposed to do this. And so it's really important that on this one, we don't make any promises.
Absolutely. I think that's such a good point, because in our zeal, often we're so eager to help that we make promises and then that person is left hanging. And we know how bad that feels for us when that happens. So it's better to say, you know what, let me look into that. Let me see if I can find out. Because Yoli and I have been involved in these situations, especially with disasters, where people want to know information that we just don't know. Is my family member safe? I don't have that information, but when I do, I'll get back to you and let me see what I can do to help you. It's okay to not have answers to everything. It's okay. And we're all so eager to help that we often, and I think it's such a good point, overstep that. And it's very important to keep that in mind.
I think that's where Yoli came in and said, if it's not written down, it never happened. And that's why it's imperative that you write that down, that Yoli said the following or asked the following, and your integrity comes in. If you don't follow up, then they're going to say, well, you know what, that guy Oscar, I asked him for this and he never followed through.
Right. Very good point.
And I've been meaning to ask you about that, Oscar.
Yeah, you never got back to us, Oscar.
No habla.
No habla, no entiendo. But that's such a good point, because it's okay for you to make a note and say, you know what, Mary, let me check on that and get back to you. And often, not often, but always, when we do a response, we document it. And in the tracking sheet, that's the information you put in. I met with this family and they asked for this, we're getting this, we're debriefing then, So I think it's a really good point that we keep track of what it is that we, shared with them. And so now the self-care part, very important.
And we all know this, get enough sleep, exercise, and engage in relaxing activities. Got to do that. That's a practical assistance for yourself. And I heard several people say it today, that that's what they do. Because I'll tell you, if you've been locked up in your house for the last 4 months, it could cause you to be a little stir crazy, especially if you're somebody who's extremely active. Well, how much more so for a lot of our elderly, speaking, those that have access and functional needs, who are not able to get out at all. They're having groceries delivered to them. I know a couple of people that are having a really hard time right now. And it's not enough to tell them you need to stay home just a little bit longer. And they're not taking care of themselves. And you can't make them, you can only encourage them. Hey, maybe you should get more sleep. Would you like me to bring something over to you? They can't take a stroll. They can't do much else, but you can, like it says there, you can do breathing exercise with them. Gina did it with you over Zoom. If they have that capacity, or even a phone call, just breathe with me. You can help them, and it helps you.
And one thing, I'm glad you brought that up. Every morning at 8:30, I have a FaceTime call with a friend, and we meditate together. We don't need to. We're just basically sitting together, but the fact that we check in, I think, is even more powerful than the meditation. But every 8:30, we have a regular time. We FaceTime. I say, hi, how you doing? How was your night? How are you feeling? And we meditate together for 20 minutes. That's it. And then we say goodbye. But having those little practical assistance check-in times, things that you do, and as Yoli said, our elderly is so important that we check in, that we kind of make sure that they're at least caring for themselves. But this part is about ourselves. We need to offer that kind of assistance to ourselves. I just wondered if there's anybody in this Zoom call who has something different that they do that offers them assistance that we haven't talked about. Any interesting, creative, practical assistance tips? It's probably a very creative group, I would think.
I like music.
Yeah.
That's what brings up, and I deal a lot with seniors. If you look at me, I'm a senior also, but I've been volunteering with seniors since 2007. And there's a study out there that folks, once they reach an age, they're no longer as active as before, but the music in their era is what brings them out again and brings them a little joy and a little happiness. So I enjoy the music.
Oh, that's such a good point. Last night I turned on my playlist and I was listening to music, and a friend of mine heard my playlist. She says, "You have such beautiful music." And I realized, yes, I do. And I don't listen to it all the time, but it was really made me feel good. It does something to our brain, our hearts. Music, that's such a beautiful, moving, dancing, putting on something and just moving your body to, um, to something you like. It doesn't have, nobody has to watch you. You can do it on your own. Movement is so important. And of course, if people like to draw or write, art is so important also. Does anybody here write or do art?
I was just going to say, when I also work for a school, I'm a teacher, and when we had to leave the classroom and come inside my house, and I had to figure out, okay, I work with kinder.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little stressful thinking how I'm going to communicate with a 5-year-old, get them engaged.
Yeah.
I have to move, I have to dance, I have to do all this, my facial expressions and everything, and I have to be in such a good mood. But then afterwards, because I'm sitting and I work with just a variety of students, and then afterwards, I walk around my house, and I'm a very active person. I like being outside. I like being in the garden, in the mountain, anything, sweeping, whatever. And at first, I didn't know what to do with myself. I really was very stressful. So I started coloring, and I have, I don't know what's that in my mess over here, is I have those coloring books for adults. And I started coloring because I thought, what am I going to do with myself? I was scrubbing the floors. I have a 2-story home. Okay, I can only scrub the floors for so much. I even polished, as you can talk to my husband, I polished the cabinet. I rearranged the dishes and everything. Asked my son, there was the 3 of us here stuck in our 2-story home. I was afraid to go out, and it was a very stressful time for me. So I started coloring, and I had this not the whole wall, but a big, Post-it note with drawings that I had. I didn't draw, but I colored. I thought, I got to keep myself occupied, but I have to move. I wanted to do something, but it was, a very stressful time for me at the beginning, because I was kind of panicking, and then I couldn't share that. When I'm talking to a 6-year-old kid that is, it's this little girl that says, "Oh, we can't go anywhere. We can't go outside," and then here I am going, "Oh, I know exactly how she feels," but I can't show that. I want her to feel, "Oh, don't worry about it. Look at my coloring. Look what I did. And can you draw me that little flower?" And I started talking to her, and after I hung up with her, I said, "Oh my Lord, it's amazing what crayons do."
Amazing.
So
good for you.
Just going back, if you can't go outside, going back to being at home and having to figure out, what can I do to self-care for myself. So when when I get up in the morning and I do my little morning routine with these little kids, that I can be genuine and I'm not being a phony. They can really see that I'm happy, and I look outside, and it's sunny, and it's this, and it was just
Well,
coloring.
thank you. But thank you for the work you're doing, my gosh, and keeping your energy and helping these children. Wow. Thank you, Cynthia. Oh, that's cool. It's nice meeting you all.
Someone,
What's that?
Renee said cooking. Renee
Cooking.
said cooking.
Oh, yes. I know several people doing that.
I don't do
cooking.
very well. I'm having to learn again.
Yeah.
So yes.
Cooking, yes. Okay. So we're going to just take a breath for a moment, just sort of tune in. Just a little check-in, see how everybody's doing. Take a couple of breaths. And anything in the chat or any questions you might have, or comments, feel free. When we're doing Zoom, it's always so different than having you people in front of me, but we'll do the best we can. Okay. Okay. So now we go to the connection to social support. So what we're wanting to do, and this is so crucial for people to know when we're talking about outreach, who the primary support people are for this family or these individuals. Help them to identify that. You know, we really all need, like we talked about, social engagement, but let's really, like Yoli says, write it down. Who are these sources of support? Who are these people? Is it your clergy? Is it your sister? Is it, you know, your meditation, your yoga teacher? Who are these people? We've done a lot of work where I work at the Glendon Association. We do a lot of work with suicide prevention. And we actually have people build, and you can do this, a hope kit. And they now have an app, a hope kit app. And what you do is you help the person, because hopelessness is one of the leading factors in someone not wanting to go on with their lives, is they feel hopeless. So we create a hope kit. And in that hope kit, you put all the things that inspire you, the music that you love. Now, we're not going to put country and Western depressing. I'm down on country and Western music, but music that's going to be, you know, remind you of pain. But what's the music that lifts your spirit? Who are the people that you can talk to that help you? What is it, that physical activity that you can do, that drawing, that writing? Make yourself a hope kit. And we used to actually make the kit and put the things in it. And when the person would feel very depressed or hopeless, they would open up their hope kit and they would look at these things and they would, oh yes, my letter from my sister, that was such a beautiful thing. And they're reminded of those moments. And we can do that with people. We can do this with ourselves. We have these, that's why we have our photographs around us of beautiful places we visited, or even our screen. We share our screens with beautiful pictures. Those are the things that keep our hopes and spirits up. So what we want to do is we want to create this for the person. What is the social support? What is it that you're going to tune into when you're feeling that sense of dread or hopelessness? So check out the Hope Kit. There's many things that people have created to support each other through these periods. So, and again, later on, we hope people would share some of those activities or things that you do.
I would also say too, Gina, and that this has happened, and I know it's happened to a lot of the PFA volunteers, where you may end up in a situation where you have a someone who's doesn't have that social connection.
Yeah.
So they're here, you know, they're living in the country, all of their families in another country.
Yeah.
They don't have friends. They don't have a lot of the support that they need. And so as a PFA, as a responders, well, for the responders in Santa Barbara Response Network, we try to find them that connection and kind of dispel the fear. Because a lot of times they don't get socially active because of fear. And so it's getting them to that place where they're not fearing the help that they're going to get. And it happened a lot during the debris flow and the Thomas fire, where there was a lot of the non-English speaking community that wouldn't go and look for assistance because they were fearful. They didn't have the social networking that a lot of people have, that we sometimes take for granted. And it was connecting them with those social networks that Santa Barbara Response Network was very successful in, because we knew the resources to help them, and then bringing them together to dispel the fears that they had regarding, you know, well, if I need help, something's going to happen to me, or something's going to happen to my family. And so that it got a little challenging. There were some things that happened that were very challenging, and there were a lot of people that fell through the cracks, because we had no way of finding a lot of those that were so hidden, because again, not socially connected, they will hide. And you know, and that's one thing that we want to be able to do as volunteers, or even if you're doing PFA, is assisting people to not be fearful of getting help. There were people fearful of going to the food bank because they were afraid that going to the food bank meant that they had to give up information that could be detrimental to their family. There's a story of a sheriff officer from, I'm trying to remember, I think he was North Carolina, South Carolina. They have a large Russian population. And a lot of the Russians in that population are not documented. And so there was a large fire, and they literally had to go and take infrared to each house because they were hiding in the homes and trying to get them out because of the fear that if they came out, they would be deported. So their messaging all the time is, we're here to help you. We don't care where you came from. We say the same things. That doesn't necessarily get translated very well. So again, that connecting with social support is so critical a lot of times, especially for our undocumented, non-English speaking population. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, so important. And with COVID, it's the same thing right now, Yoli.
Oh yeah,
the fear of even getting tested, the fear of getting help.
The tracing has been a really challenging messaging to the Hispanic community, because it's yeah, so it can be very challenging. And again, we're saying the same thing again about connection, that social support for you as a volunteer, for you as a responder. You need to be able to have a place where you can get good support that will help to stabilize what you need to do. You know, where are you getting your support? How are you getting your support? It's very, very important. My husband had a really bad accident over 2 years ago, where he died, and then they resuscitated him, then he was on life support for a while. He got into a bad accident. And I remember after talking to the doctor the first day, I was in shock. And it was my grandson who noticed it. And he took me into the waiting room, and I remember a nurse coming going, "Do you need me to call anybody?" And I was like, "No," because I knew exactly who I needed to call. It was like rote. I just started calling the people that I needed to. But, you know, sometimes, like, I knew not to go to the hospital by myself. I took my grandson with me. My grandson was 20 at the time. So, you know, knowing those things about myself, knowing I couldn't go by myself, I took someone with me. And so you have to make sure that you have that connection socially, because it's really important for you, you know, and I know we want to help people, want to be there for people, but you know what, it's like the old saying, there's a reason why when you're on the airplane, they tell you to put the mask on yourself first. It's the same concept here. You got to take care of yourself, or you become a victim like everyone else.
Yeah, it's so important, because we chose to be helpers for a variety of reasons, but a lot of us are there for others and forget that piece, like Yoli was saying about, what do I need to support myself? When you said that story about your husband, I had a similar incident. My husband was very badly burned, and third-degree burns on a major part of his body, a lot of his body. And so I spent a lot of time in a burn unit, and I was sitting there day after day and, you know, caring. And now I did do these self-care practices. I did call my friends every day. I had a system of people I turned to, and I had people that came to relieve me. But it was San Diego. It's a long drive for people to come. The burn unit is down there. So I created a system of where people came and took shifts so I could have breaks. But one little social worker came up to me and she said, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm fine. I'm doing great." She goes, "How can you be doing great?" I said, she goes, "Don't you want to stay somewhere else for a while?" I said, "Well, I can't afford to go in a hotel." And, you know, so they found me a place to stay at one of these, like a benevolent home. They have these sanctuary homes next to the units. And I stayed there and I slept there and I went, oh, bless her heart. But that's the kind of thing. I was okay. I was there taking care of him. And she just reminded me, no, you've got to take care of yourself. And I mean, those are extreme cases that Yoli and I have been through. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but the fact is, I'm always okay. And I bet all of us here, we're always okay. Are we? You have to ask yourself these questions. You have to create this support for yourself. And so this is a very key point. And then that gets translated to the people we're helping. So, so this is when you're really looking at what this person's been through, how are they going to cope with this? I mean, both Yoli and I talked about having had these experiences in our own lives. How are we going to cope with this? How do you explain? And this is a point where when you've got that person, how are you going to help them identify how they're going to cope? It's not just take care of themselves going forward. Let's put things in place where 6 months from now, a month from now, you're going to have a way of surviving and supporting you long term. So we're going to do short-term coping and long-term coping. SBRN, over all these years of response, have an incredibly robust referral system. So remember that, put that down in your little thing, that you can turn to us for resources, for referrals. We need to be able to help these people know that they're not alone. And identifying how these practices can be placed with their families and with their communities going forward. One thing I want to say is I've learned during this COVID that there are trusted community members that a lot of people look up to, and agencies. We need to identify those. Like, for instance, Lisa and I have worked a lot with Casa de la Raza. That's a trusted entity to our community. Who are these trusted people? The church, you know. Is that a place where you go and that's a place where you can get coping support? You know, these beacons of light in our community, they're the ones that are going to help these individuals cope long term. So here we go for this.
Yeah, talking about being mindful. Remember I said that there are a lot of times when you are, somebody's saying or going through will spark something in you. It's just making sure that you are aware of that and trying not to be too judgmental about what they're going through. A lot of times what they're going through may not seem as bad to you, but you have to be aware that you know, it might affect you. So you have to be careful for that. I like this yawn and stretch for 10 seconds every hour. Stand up, think about yourself. You know, I finally got a watch that tells me to stand up, and then I had to stop it because I'm still here. So I can't do that right now, right? So I had to stop it. But
maybe we can. And maybe everybody can stand up for a minute and stretch or yawn.
Maybe for 1 minute because we're running out of time.
Oh, no, we've got till 5 and we're going to do our interaction. I think we're good. For one. Okay. How about a 10-second yawn?
A 10-second yawn. Everybody yawn. Roll. Don't go to
Oh,
sleep.
yeah, don't go to sleep. Nope, we're going to go on.
So
Yeah.
those are just some coping skills. Be mindful, stop, take a breath, be aware of yourself, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you can, get something to remind you, put it on your calendar, you know, get up and stretch. And I'm bad. There are days that I dismiss it because I'm busy and I don't want to get up. Or I'm almost done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do that
And
later.
then the day, yeah. It's a challenge. It's a discipline.
And it's
But
funny
it's very
because I
important.
work in a fire department and the guys will walk by every once in a while and go, "Are you still sitting there?" Nope, getting up right now. Honest, I'm getting up. So they yell at me. Sometimes I'm there till really late at night and they yell at me. So yeah, I have to remember, get up.
You need
walk,
people to
pray.
yell at you.
Yes. Oh, someone has a 2-minute break app. Oh, very nice.
Oh, I like that. Cool. I share that.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one is pretty obvious, but and we've touched on it quite a bit, but the linkage with collaborative services. We're not there for the long haul. As PFA responders, we're not taking clients. We're not in for business. We're called out to be of assistance while the person is going through this incident. And then we identify in all those previous core actions what the needs are, and we link them and we pass them on. That doesn't mean you just say, okay, you're out of here. It's not like that. It's a warm handoff. You make the call possibly because they may not have the language or they're scared, as Yoli mentioned. So you're helping them, you're assisting them. You're going to do helping them. Maybe they need to have a ride set up because they're not driving, or so you're kind of massaging it, making it agreeable and easy for them, but we pass them on. Otherwise, in the 12 years, we'd have thousands of people we're taking care of, but that's not our place. Our role is just that support at that moment and helping them to link to whatever it is they need. Did you get Mimi?
Yeah.
Okay.
For those of you who do CERT or LISTOS, you know that it's triage.
Yeah.
Right? It's just kind of, you're just there to get them prepared to go further, to go to wherever they need to go to get well. We're not the doctors. We're not we're not the nurses. We're right now, I'm going to put a bandage on it. I recognize the 3 killers and that's what I'm going to do. That's it. So it's what it says. It's psychological first aid. We're there to put the first aid on it, and then the professionals will help. Sometimes, like I know with Gina and several of our PFA volunteers, they've actually followed families. You know, they've built a relationship with the family. And I know Gina's talked several times about one young woman who's now on our board, who they helped in the beginning of a lot of these suicides that were going on. And so sometimes that'll happen, you know.
People want to give back. They get better and they want to give back. And they return and say, how can I help? That's beautiful. It gives them a sense of well-being.
Yes. So, and again, with linking, you know, collaborative services, yeah, what kind of services can you provide? A young woman comes in with 3 children. She's been evicted.
Go ahead.
And she's been evicted and has come to the library to rest. Oh, I'm sorry. This was for the library, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. But I'm still doing this old slide. But I remember what our new exercise is, so we can do that.
Sorry about that. But just think about some of these things.
It's a good one. Yeah. This was a training we did for the library, and they have a lot of issues. As you know, the main library, and Yoli and I did 2 trainings for them on psychological first aid. And these are some of the incidents that they came up with, and they wanted ways to be able to deal with it. So I have a PowerPoint from the library. Let's see if I've got now we're not going to do a mindfulness exercise. I think we should do our breakouts now, Yoli. What do you think?
Well, we still need to talk about compassion fatigue.
Okay.
But we need to go through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Yoli. Why don't you do the compassion fatigue?
Compassion fatigue is the cost of caring for others. And go to the next slide.
Okay.
Here's some of the ways that you can kind of recognize in yourself that you've gotten to a place where you're fatigued, you know, and you're impatient. You lose a meaning. There's loss of meaning in your cognitive thinking. Emotionally, you feel powerless. You have survivor guilt. And that survivor guilt, that's a real thing. Personal relationships, you start to withdraw, you're overprotective. You can have rapid heartbeat. I've known people who thought they were having heart attacks when they weren't. So these are some of the things that you need to recognize in yourself. You know, maybe I need to stop. Maybe I just need to stop and take some time away. Please stop. I mean, if you're experiencing any of this, it's a huge stop sign for you to go back and go, okay, I need to stabilize. I need some support. I need something to help me. I mean, all of these things are, and this is only just a partial list actually, but it's some of the big, like, I'm a pretty strong, very determined type of a person. So if I'm all of a sudden feeling powerless emotionally, yeah, Gina and I will go have drinks. Which, by the way, you probably shouldn't do. But you know, you and I have a way of talking to each other.
Only tea, no.
Well, yeah, we drink water, and so, you know, but that's because I know I can go to her, and there are other people that I go to for other things if I know that I've had any of these symptoms, and so again, be aware of yourself.
And one thing that Yoli and I have done, we've had volunteers that we've had to talk to about not responding.
Yeah.
So be a friend. If you're noticing somebody is burning out, they have compassion fatigue, their heart is as big as a truck, but their body can't keep up, please. And it's a hard thing to do because, but Yoli and I had to do it and say, you know, you need to take a break. You're not recognizing these symptoms of compassion fatigue and you're going to get sick. And I care about you. You have to stop. It's hard.
Actually, that person was starting to get really sick.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so we need to do this for ourselves, and we need to watch out for others who are involved in this work that do not know how to stop. It's a real thing.
Like, believe it or not, it's Cynthia, right? Cynthia works with kids.
Yeah, Cynthia, the teacher.
So does Irma. That's compassion fatigue. You need to really make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And then Gina, if you want to go through the compassion
I'll
center.
go through this real quick. We started compassion centers when we had large events like the fires, the debris flow, incidents in schools, where we set up a center where people could come and sit and talk to a trained volunteer. And it was like the door was open. We put a table out. We had refreshments, and people would come and just be able to get some psychological support and referrals. They can be set up anywhere that where there's been an incident. We now are doing compassion centers online. We started them in English and Spanish on Facebook, where we were interviewing and talking to people in the community that were offering help, so that the community members would know where to go for help. But you could set this up in your agency where we can help you create a compassion center. Let's say you're working in a school or a center and you want people to come together and just debrief or practice psychological first aid. We can help you by setting something like that up on Zoom, where we'd have 2 facilitators. They would sit like Yoli and I are as trainers. They would be facilitators, and we bring people into the space and allow them to deal with some of the issues that are going on right now. So, and that can be done now online. So it's effective because it's a group model for offering psychological first aid with trained volunteers. So,
okay. You want to go on?
Yes, but and this is the virtual when we talked about, and I covered that. We can do it online, and just contact us. The same thing, we don't set them up unless we're invited. So you can't just say, oh, I think you need some compassion right now, so I'm going to set up a compassion center. we get asked to come in. And again, after that, we'll hand people off for support. So we're being sensitive, but we can do these kinds of supports online. So let's keep that in mind. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to quickly cover some of the do's and don'ts of responding. So I'll do the do's and Yoli's doing is good at the don'ts. So being empathic, put yourself in the person's shoes, listen for the meaning, paraphrase what the person's saying, and pay attention to nonverbal communication. Again, this is like empathic listening skills, empathic listening, reflective listening. And that's what you're doing. You're being there for the person. Okay.
The don'ts. And now I know why my children are the way they are.
Yeah,
Because
me too.
Every single one of these things to them. You know, I wish I would have had this class like training like years and years and years ago, right?
Yeah.
But these are some of the things we say because we don't know what to say. So here are some things that you can say. Go ahead, Gina, go to the next one.
Okay.
You can say, I'm sorry for your pain. Or I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Is it all right if I help you with something? I can't imagine what this is like for you. And what is it that you need? So these are things that you can say.
Yes.
Sometimes, you know, we have put so much emphasis on do's and don'ts. We don't say enough of, but you can say these things. You can offer assistance. You can offer help. And
Exactly.
you don't know what they're going through. So try not to compare. And if you've ever been in a coffee shop, there's a lot of it. Somebody will be talking about something going on and somebody else is over talking them because their issue was like that, but more horrific. But, oh no, you don't understand. This is like this. Oh, but wait, this was like, and they build these walls and they just need to be knocked down and just say, nope, I'm here for you. The best volunteer is the one that hardly says anything.
You know, I was just going to say, sometimes something may not seem a big deal to you, but yet to that person, it's huge. And it's affecting their health. It's affecting their family. So I really focus on the person, not me, because it's not about me. It's about that person and who I'm trying to help so that that person could move forward. Otherwise, I'm not doing any good. You know, I really need to listen and pay attention to what they're saying and realize that may not be it. I don't see it as a big deal, but to them, it's huge.
It's a big deal.
Monumental. And so I need to be
that.
sensitive to that, right?
Well said. So true. Okay, so now we're going to do a little practice, and we're going to break up into breakout rooms. Sachi's going to help us. And how many people are there, Sachi?
There are about 27 people.
So we should break out into, I don't know how many rooms.
Probably 5 rooms of 5, and somebody will have an extra person.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so this scenario can stay up, right, while you're in the breakout rooms, or should we read it out loud and then, and I'll leave it up on the screen as well.
I think you might have to just read it out loud for now because I don't know if the screen will be shared.
Okay.
In the breakout.
Okay.
So here's the scenario. Okay. And this is partially true. So this is a partial true scenario. A mother, either professionally or personally, has had a daughter tested for COVID. They will not get the results for 3 to 5 days. She is concerned because her family consists of 3 children, 3, 10, and 14, a parent with compromised immune system, and her husband is a firefighter that has not been home for the last 3 months. She is on her own, fearful of the future. The family is bilingual and bicultural.
So that's the situation. So when you go out into your breakout rooms, pick someone to take the notes of what you would do in a psychological first aid response. The mother's called you in and this is the situation. What would be some of the things you would do, pulling in some of the core actions that we talked about? to offer support to this mom. Okay? So we'll give you how much time? It's 4:38, so 10 minutes, Yoli? Or,
10 minutes? Yeah.
and then we can do some sharing.
Before we break out, does anybody have any questions? Again, there's no right or wrong answer for
No.
anything that you, this is a chance for you just to get together and discuss what
Yeah.
you do in this situation and what resources you would connect her with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just write down some of those, or think of some of those key points, and then
Have a
we'll
spokesperson.
get back together after 10 minutes. Sachi, can you bring us back together after 10 minutes?
Yes.
And
Okay.
then whoever's appointed to share, then you can just share what you would do.
Okay.
in that
It
situation.
looks like Renee typed it into the chat, so you'll be able to look at it.
Oh, thank
Thank
you,
you, Renee.
Renee. Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll see you. Am I going to be in a room too, Sachi? I can or can't be, whatever.
Yeah, you might be in a room too.
Okay, that's fine.
Sachi, I can't be in a room. I got to go take care of something real quick, but I'll be right
Okay.
back.
Okay, no worries. Yoli, you just don't have to. You don't have to add yourself to the room. So I'm just gonna create them. But
Okay, I think something's frozen.
hello. Whatever.
Okay. Okay, 10 minutes left.
Looks like I didn't get selected for any group. I didn't get selected for a group, Gina.
Oh, okay. Let me ask.
Oscar, I think you have to choose to enter the breakout room that I
Says
put you in.
join breakout room.
Yeah. Is there an option like that for you?
Let me take a look. Start video, share contents, participants, more.
It's on the screen. It's a pop-up. The host is inviting you to join a breakout room.
Are you on your phone by chance?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
That might be the reason why you might not have gotten the request.
Oh,
But
okay.
oh.
let me see if I can move you to a different breakout room really quick and see if you get that notification and see if like maybe you can join that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna put you in one right now.
Ah, there it is. Host, move to 3.
Were you able to join?
No.
Hmm.
Should.
I'm not too sure why. It might just be because you're on your phone. I can't really think. I don't really know
Okay.
what
But
else.
Oscar, I'm
Yes.
here. I didn't go into a breakout room. We can do it together.
Sure.
So you've got the scenario, right?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. I guess I do a lot of this with Listos, which is another similar to
Right.
CERT. I would first of all say, hi, my name is Oscar. I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
If you need me,
Mm-hmm.
how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a difference that the word help could be a distraction to them because they're going to be expecting something from me. But I'm here to assist you or support you.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, Gina, that your husband has been away for 3 months, and I understand that your daughter has tested positive, and you're going to get some type of response in 2 to 3 days. And I know you have 3 small children. What is it that I can do for you to assist you during this time?
Mm-hmm. Very good. And then what would you have, knowing this, let's say you knew this ahead of time, right? Some of these things.
I would
Would you-
prepare myself. I'll do my due
Yeah.
diligence. I would gather all of the phone numbers, the agencies, the what ifs, the contingencies, whatever they would need.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
So that if she does have questions, I'm able to at least give her an avenue or a channel to get to these
Mm-hmm.
programs that we can help.
Mm-hmm. And
And
if you're interacting with her and she's extremely distraught, let's say she's a mom that's just like emotional and crying and quite upset, how
well,
would you?
I would say, Gina, can you please go along with me? Take a deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
let it out slowly. Let's focus.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work at this together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Gina, let's talk. What is it that you need? Then I would allow you, Gina, to go ahead and tell me what is it that you need. And I would paraphrase that. So you're saying that you're nervous because of your husband hasn't been home in a while and you have all of this responsibility. Your daughter's going to be given the final test.
Mm-hmm.
We can get through this.
Yeah, exactly.
We
And
can get through this. Go ahead.
right. And also, what I was thinking was that her anxiety about all these issues that are going on, that feeling that you're imparting to her, which I'm hearing is that she's not alone. And, there's, kind of finding out what her supports are.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah. Oscar and I are in a breakout room together because neither of us he couldn't get into a breakout room. So we decided to do this scenario together. So
Oscar, why do you always have to be the difficult one?
Yoli, you know what it is? It's probably my age. Nobody wants
No.
me around. What is, even my wife, after 47 years, she doesn't want me around.
you know what I think, Oscar?
47 years.
I think you're a plant. I think Yoli put you here as a.
How are
No,
we
but
gonna
it was
handle this
excellent.
guy?
The way he responded to this was excellent. He was just figuring everything out. But I think that's the thing, when this woman is just overwhelmed with things to do, and
And it's really
what
hard.
are her resources? What are her resources?
And you know what? As a wife of a firefighter, there's a lot of resources for her. But I can tell you, a lot of firefighters' wives do not share personal things.
That's
And
right. Is
so
that
it's
like police officers, right?
Yes. And so, and the reason I put the firefighter thing in there is because I've had firefighters in my office who've not been home for now going on 4 months.
That's
They've
really
They've
hard.
either been living in the garage or in a hotel or somewhere where they're by themselves and they don't mix. They talk to their families and stuff, which is great, but it's not the same as a physical touch. Humans were made for physical touch.
Exactly.
And when you don't have that and you're used to it,
Right.
that emotionally is terrorizing. And as a woman, women are very, and I don't mean to I do mean to generalize because it's for the most part true. Women thrive on touch. And so when it's not there and you're the, most women who are firefighter wives understand being alone for a short amount of time. But 4 months, there are some guys that have not seen their wives for 4 months.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, too, is that a lot of the divorces are geared that way. I'm sure, Yoli, you've heard forced to work. And that's, my son-in-law is a firefighter, so I understand where she's coming from, where you're forced to work.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yeah. So it's tough. So then when we get back together, Oscar, you can just, share what you came up with, even though it was a small breakout room, but I think,
okay, sure. Margarita.
Whatever you feel comfortable. The questions I can't, I've got that pop up on my screen, but Yoli, those questions that are up on the screen right now, is that what we're going to guide the discussion with?
We can. We have, again, we've got 5 groups.
Okay.
We could ask each group a question.
Yeah. Well, they're going.
I actually just, because it was 4:50, Gina, you told me to end it.
Yeah, 4:50.
It should be back in like about 30 seconds.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this could be just to guide the discussion, because each group's going to have a spokesperson to share what they came up with, and then these questions could be just a guiding.
We don't want them to answer all the questions because we won't have time.
No, it's just.
Well, you can ask them to answer just one of them.
Yeah. I can't read them because I have a pop-up in the middle of my screen, Yoli. So thank you if you could assist with that. I can't get rid of that pop-up. I've tried the whole session. So I'm going to have a tutorial after this on that.
All right. Everyone should be back.
Welcome, everybody. So we'll hear from each group. We'll start with group number 1. And these questions, we don't want you to answer them all, but maybe just share what it is that you came up with as a way to assist this mother.
Dara, you were taking notes, so I nominate you as a spokesperson.
Good, there.
I didn't take many notes on it, but
That's
we were
okay.
just saying that what we talked about was we just had mainly more questions about it. One of them was mainly how to reach out. I think one of our participants mentioned, like, how can we provide help for the children? Because then another thing is, we've heard, or at least I've heard a lot, that people don't like to be very open to talk about COVID right now because of the stigma. So the mom may be afraid to talk about it or share that information with close friends to see if she can reach out to, let's say, close friends that can help out emotionally or even like physically with her kids, right? She could be going under a lot of stress. So like, can I ask my close friend to help me with my kids right now since my husband is not in the house? Or but you also don't want to, let's assume the daughter came positive. Like, you don't want to expose those other friends, right? And then we were wondering, maybe our conversation would have went differently if we would have known who out of the 3 was the like, how old was the daughter who got tested. What else do you guys know? What other questions we had? That was our main concern, I think.
Okay. Were you able to come up with did you have a place to go to find her support because she was, it seems like she was bilingual at this point. Her husband was a firefighter. Any ideas on places for support for the family?
No, I think Laura only mentioned asking if the husband, since he's a firefighter, maybe he could have provide the family with like at least a virtual doctor's appointment or something. I forgot what Laura was exactly what she said, but
Yeah.
that was close, yeah.
I don't think we really had like time to like come together with like a total like emergency
Okay.
care plan or whatever. I mean, yeah, the doctor appointment was talked about, but that was only over confusion that it was suspected, not positive. So
Okay. So not enough time, but at least you got to discuss some of the situations.
yeah.
How about group number 2? Do they want to share?
Yeah.
Hi,
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
oh, saved by the simultaneous responding. Oh, this is Mara. Please chime in. I think I was in number 2. I was in group 2. Yeah, and similarly, actually, these are helpful questions. The questions that I'm seeing on the screen. I feel like this is like a helpful guide in kind of organizing thoughts. But some of the things that we touched base on had to do with, also just so like identifying kind of how, our self-care. So we talked a little bit about just, using our own breath, kind of a grounding practice, like, noticing our own body sensations as we're responding to this really anxious, mom, and helping us stay in the present. We talked about just that core, just definitely starting with that chronological core, introducing our role, and asking permission, like identifying that rapport and asking permission. And then we also talked about, just like the real kind of like identifying practical assistance. So, asking about, right now in this moment, what's kind of, what's most important to you? Do you know? And then we also weren't able to identify specific needs, but really we did look at, is there a kind of a trusted person that you've turned to before, or in a practical need that's, to help support your kids, keep them occupied or engaged while you make a phone call, or that type of thing. Anything else, group members, that you wanted to add?
I think Michelle also had a really great point in terms of, of identifying that trusted person, but also potential family member who may be able to come down in the interim and provide support around childcare and also just emotional support as well.
That's good. That's a good idea, actually. I thought about that. Excellent. You guys did good. I know it wasn't a lot of time. My apologies. I should have given you more time for this, but I think you're touching on some main points. Group 3, do you have a spokesperson for the?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. So yeah, similar to what the other groups said, we were just talking about like beginning by introducing ourselves and that we're associated with the Santa Barbara Response Network, and like validating, first of all, like what they're experiencing, and then asking how we can be supportive and if they want support. So first getting that permission, and then just asking how we can be helpful. what's their like major needs at the moment, and then based on those needs we can share that we are connected to various resources from the Santa Barbara Response Network, and based on their needs we can try to get them linked with these various services. And
great.
Yeah, because we were just thinking that there's like a whole variety of needs that they might have. We're not sure if we should go down the mental health route or what, so we'll just leave it open and say that we based on their needs we can link them. So
Good. You guys are doing great for the little time that we gave you. So on to number 4, group 4. Or breakout room 4, was there a breakout room 4?
There we are. I had to unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
First of all, asking permission, if we can help, asking permission, listening, asking questions. For example, what is it that you need? How can we best support you? In addition, asking ourselves if we are the right person, given the identities that were shared, because it was like I think a bicultural, biracial
right
family. So
that's a good point.
Really taking a good look at ourselves and saying, are we the right person to assist this family? And if not, let's find the right person to do so.
It's a good point.
So
yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, I think that's being sensitive to the issues. Okay, and breakout room 5.
Hello.
Hi. Hi.
We brainstormed a lot just about what was going on, could be going on with the family. And then, as with everybody else had said, introducing ourselves, seeing if we could offer support or what support would be wanted. And then just going through and kind of helping identify needs, that there's a lot of different stuff going on. If there's, if the husband is gone often, maybe there's already a support network in place that can be accessed.
Right, as a firefighter, right.
Yeah. Or is this something different? Are there services through his work as a firefighter? What are the needs of the rest of the kids? What's the need of the grandparent? How can we be of service in that moment?
Yeah.
And not
Great.
get caught up in all the different things that are going on.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great, you guys. I think that was number 5, right? So then Oscar and I were in a breakout room by ourselves.
I ditto everything.
Ditto everything. Oscar dittos everything. Yeah. Thank you, Oscar. So I think that one of the things from this training I was going to put in the chat, if you'd like to do a part 2, usually our trainings are like 6 hours, condensing into 2 because there's only so much Zoom time we can do. But if anybody in this group wants to do a part 2, which is much more, we'll take these scenarios, we'll have more role plays. Just put it in the chat, and I don't mind holding these every few weeks as sort of a community support and also skill building and more practice. So now that you've kind of familiar with what PFA is, then we could take more time to kind of really break out into groups and practice. And I think you did well considering how little time we had for the scenario. So
I also want to say too, let us know if you want these slides.
Yeah, so that you
good
have them as a
information for you
reference.
to have on hand. We'll also be emailing you an evaluation for this class, and we do take all types of critiques, because that's how we change what we need to change. Again, just very quickly, if you're wondering what are we covered under, we're actually covered under the Volunteer Protection Act with the United States and the Good Samaritan Law for the state of California. So we can't go past what we know. right? That's basically what that says. So you can't do a tracheotomy and say you learned it from a training with the Santa Barbara Response Network. Won't fly. So just stay within your lane. Is there anything more, Gina? Gina, did you freeze? Oh, Gina.
I think she's frozen.
Is she frozen?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
Gina, you
frozen.
froze. Yeah, she lives up in the mountain community. Oh, I guess we're gone. Okay. So is it just you and me, Sachi?
No. Everyone else is still here. I think Gina just disconnected, so she's probably going to try to join back.
Oh, okay. I thought, wait, what happened? Because all of a sudden my screen died. So, okay, well, yeah, there's supposed to be a slide that tells you how you can get a hold of us, but we'll send it to you because it's not there. Yeah, Gina and I will talk about doing a number 2. Oh, wait, there we go.
It? I just pulled up the slide and shared my screen.
Good. It's 2 down.
Okay.
So it's slide 42.
This one?
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe you can email it to us.
Yeah, we'll email everything to you.
Great.
And then, you know, when we have time, we'll do it again. Gina might be texting me now. And but I really, you know, as chair of the Santa Barbara Response Network, I really want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know some of you are on vacation. Some of you have been on vacation for 4 months. And some of you have had to deal with a lot of things in the last several months. So I really appreciate you being here. I know if Gina was on, she would tell you to remember to breathe and to take care of yourselves and your family. Because we wanted to end right at 5, we're 5 minutes over, so we really don't have any time for questions and answers, but you can always email the SBRN command at gmail.com if you have any further questions, and Sachi kind of keeps an eye on that, and we'll get back to you with any kind of responses that you need. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the 4th of July. Be safe, and we will see most of you again when we do part 2.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay cool.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Wishing
Thank
you
you,
all a lot of
Sachi.
kindness. Bye.
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 Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly.
Bye, Irma. Good to see you.
I know, same
Bye,
here.
Oscar. Bye, Oscar. Good not to see you.
I think he left already. He's like, I'm out of here. I'll let him know.
Okay. Thanks, sweetie. I'll
Bye.
talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.